Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Renew Your Mind podcast. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Apologies that we've been off for a little while, but we're back. We're back like we never left, and we're back to finish off the wonderful series. So we had the Valiant series with some amazing guests, and today Mr. Iremide to round us off. But before we go ahead, would you please like to introduce yourself to those who don't know you? Let them know who you are and what you're all about.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful for the privilege to be here. And so my name is Iremide Akinsola. I am, okay, how do I start? A Christian, a husband to the most amazing woman in the world, and a father to my amazing daughter. I'm a writer, I'm an auditor. Um, and I wear many hats. I support Liverpool Football Club. We're not doing so well right now, but I still support us.
Okay.
And I enjoy reading, writing, and listening to music. So thank you for having me.
No, thank you. Thank you for being here. And it's so funny. So you never walk alone, right, Liverpool?
Exactly.
Eh.
Never, 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 never.
No, and one of the reasons why we invited Iromide here is because if you are a follower of the blog, so Musings with Mo, he has been a frequent guest on our blog before, and he also runs a blog himself, iremideakinshola.com, I believe.
Yes, that's
Um,
correct.
Perfect. Yeah. So he's a published author. He has several books that he's published, and he's just a very committed writer. So not a writer, but you like to read and you like to. I think you're someone who is seeking wisdom, but also looking to share that knowledge with others, which I really really admire. So one of the things that we do here as well is to our guests we ask them what is one resource or one thing that you're using to renew your mind in this current
Mhm.
season?
For me to be the Bible, I know that sounds like cliche or the normal answer, but it is because recently I've been spending more time than I should on social media, and
Mm,
sometimes I find myself unnecessarily afraid because of the
mm,
insecurity issue in Nigeria. You see videos
mm,
of people being kidnapped, those kind of things. And I just find
mm,
myself, waking up in the morning just afraid, trying to go through to do routine things, just want to get
mm,
something down the street, and I'm worried, and it
mm,
has done like 1,000 times before. So the word of
yeah,
God for me is where I find solace, is where I find refreshment, where I find renewal of my mind,
yeah,
because that's really where I have that constant presence. I'm sure that I can always go there and find solace and find succor for my soul.
yeah, yeah. No, that's amazing, and it's true, right? Because just even with the recent news now, I can't even imagine it.
Mhm,
It can be a lot. It can be a lot. And I
mhm,
think sometimes with the um overstimulation on social media, we tend to forget that these things are real. Like it's actually having
mhm,
an impact on us. The more we're taking in, it's affecting our brain. Makeup in in some sort of way, right? Like the way we're reacting to things. So no, I think and I think it's so important as well because sometimes it's much easier to take in social media, because they make it in digestible chunks versus going yeah. So we were talking about the current resource you're using to renew your mind, and I think, as you said, it's so important with everything that's going on, that we are ensuring that our minds are being renewed, right? That we're not just taking
mhm,
everything that we see in. I think it's quite important.
mhm.
um so thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So one of the questions we had was
Mhm,
basically just asking you, talking us through how you navigate and stay faithful through the various stages of life. So a few years ago, you come on the Music Minimal blog, you spoke about, living single. Obviously, that has changed for you. And actually, funny story, before I reached out to you, I
mhm.
was going through some of your blog posts on your
Okay.
website. I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
wow. Like you've had so many collaborations, people that you've worked with and things like that. And it's
Mhm,
just so
mhm,
interesting seeing the vulnerability of it, right? Because I think a key thing to remember in this Christian walk is not always portraying perfection, right? And
mm,
being able to be real. I mean, being
mm,
able to share that this is the growth that I've gone through. You know, see you of when I think you just finished school and you just started your writing journey and you
mm.
were
Gosh,
of
sure,
things
sure.
out. Yeah, yeah. It's what's on the
It's been
internet
a
is very
while. It's been a while. It's been a while.
it's been a while. Like even some of the series you'd had and some people that you invited, just giving them that space to share their growth and share some of the experiences that they're going through. I think it's
Mm,
so important, right? It gives space for other people to do that. So I guess one of the questions is just how have you been able to navigate those different stages of life? For those of us that are maybe, as I said, like looking up and seeing somebody else that has gone through, yeah, because the truth of the matter is, even if someone might say, "Oh, I don't feel like it," but the thing is, your experience
mm.
is different from mine,
True,
right? I'm able to
true.
have an out body and see, okay, this is how this person is. This
Mm-hmm.
is how I perceive them to
Yeah,
be. Like,
yeah.
and there's certain tools and things that we can all learn from each other, right? So
Mm,
there's a certain
mm,
strength that you have that's like, okay, somebody else can learn from that and incorporate that into
mm.
their life. So yeah, talk us through that, sir.
Ah man, when you were speaking, I went down memory lane. Like God, it's been a while. It's been a while, and I'm like, time does
Yes.
fly. Um,
Yes.
I would say the vulnerability part. I have always relied on God, and it
Mm,
sounds. I mean, I don't really. I mean, I know how it sounds, but it's the truth because
yeah.
I remember by December 15th, it will be 6 years. I moved to Abuja from Ibadan.
Mm,
I was based in Ibadan. My family,
yeah.
my parents, and I got a job here, and I
Yeah.
moved. And interestingly, the job was a 1 year because it's with a non-governmental organization, so it's on project funding. It was a 1 year contract,
Yeah.
and it was like if you're leaving a full-time job. I was working with an audit firm, and I was leaving a
Mm,
full-time job for
yeah.
uncertainty, you know.
Yeah.
And I was afraid, like what would happen. But I look
Yeah.
back and like Jacob said, when I crossed this river, I just the staff go look at me now. I'm two camps. Um, and it's been God guiding and helping through every season. I've learned to recalibrate at each point in time and enjoy the
Mm,
season. I think one of the biggest things I'll say is
mm,
enjoy the season because when you are constantly looking back or looking
mm,
forward, you get
yeah.
distracted. You know,
Yeah.
somebody say, "Oh, like I just really want to get married," and I did. I really did want to get married, but I
Mm-hmm.
knew that that would happen by the grace
Mm-hmm.
of God when
Yeah.
time comes. But I never wanted
Mm,
to miss out on the part where I enjoyed myself. And same thing with got married, children will come. Enjoy the
mm,
season. When
yeah.
that next bit comes, you don't look back in regret and say, oh, because things will change.
Yeah.
But
Mm,
you are able to recalibrate, you're able to rely on God. And I also say importantly, I seek the guidance of mentors. I have people who I speak to. My
yeah.
parents are chief among them.
Yeah.
That myself and my
Mm-hmm.
wife would speak to. And also like a few selected mentors who, interestingly, to have been with me through the years. One of
Yeah.
them was my icon lecturer when I left service, so now more than a
Mm,
decade ago, and he lectured
wow.
me. And interestingly, my name was his child's name, so he asked for my
Mm,
name in the class, and he said, "What's your name?" I said, "My name is Iremide." He was shocked
yeah.
because him and his wife sat down to like they brought up a name which they felt nobody had ever had because
Oh wow.
Olamide and then they liked Ire, so they brought together Iremide, thinking like it's the first person. But to see an
Yeah.
adult who is like in his 20s bearing the name you thought you cooked up for the first time,
Yeah.
that brought
Yeah.
us together, and it's been a very, very strong model in my life. Transition through the period when I was just serving after service. Uh,
Mm,
Around that period after service, yes, doing my exams, to get working, getting married, and then
yeah.
recently came to Abuja for a conference, and he came around to our place, and it was really full circle for me because I
Yeah.
cried at some point. I'm like, when this started, it was just a mentor and a mentee, a boy who
Yeah.
don't know his way around, and here we are a decade plus again, and his transition to his wife being now our big sister, big
mm,
role model, and their family being that for us. And then he was
mm,
carrying my daughter, carrying our daughter, and
mm,
I just felt like, wow. So it's that because
mm,
they also have things they've seen ahead, they can always guide us in.
yeah,
The place of wisdom, how do you navigate this? The transition
mm,
from face to face. There are seasons in your life when you would not be able to do all that you want to do. What I've noticed,
mm, mm, mm,
particularly for myself, the past few weeks has been pressure from work, has been really intense, and other things have maybe not been so prominent.
cool. Yeah,
But
yeah,
okay, now I have some weeks off. Those things come into play. Work goes,
yeah,
and then seasons in work also should have like an ebb and flow. So say
mm,
one, God, two, mentors, three, understanding yourself, because um those three things have been mine, and I'll say because it's like my slash guiding part. Um, and I'll say, yeah, being married to a wonderful woman too. I think that
shout
is
out
because
Sister Rachel.
yeah, it's really comforting because the world could be crashing down, and then you have
Mm,
someone that you can genuinely and sincerely be
mm,
vulnerable with to say, I'm confused. I don't know how things are going. I don't know what is up. And through the seasons, like I'm like now I'm a father, like a whole human
mm,
being calls me daddy. That's more responsibility, and I'm like, God, please help me. I can't afford to feel you. I
yeah,
can't afford to feel this little girl. And there's pressure, but there's also
mm,
provision available in God for all of that.
yeah. Wow, that's amazing. There's pressure, but there's also solution available in God to help with all of that.
Yeah.
That's a tagline right there. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing.
Thank you very much.
And as you know, today's topic is about men of valor, right?
Yeah.
So we know the men of valor in the Bible.
Mhm.
Some examples have been stated before in the past. David and his men of valor, and I think it was also this guy, not Gabriel. What's his name?
Gideon?
Gideon. That's it. Yeah, Gideon. Mighty man of
Mhm.
valor and all of that. But when you
Mhm.
hear that term, what comes to your mind, and what do you think that means, and who do you think it might represent?
The man of valor is someone who is a person greatly helped by God, and
Mm,
I believe it's captures everyone's representation of who we are,
mm,
um, not not how we see ourselves. So that statement in I think Judges 6, "Oh, you mighty man of valor," and the person he was speaking to was like, "Guy,
me?
look at me hiding over here," and that's how God's assessment differs from ours. And so I
Mm,
see the mighty man of valor, a man of valor, as someone who God sees potential in, who God understands um, his struggles, but knows that there is like an unpolished gem here. That this person has
mm,
potential to do great things, and as
wow.
such, it's not in his own strength.
Mm,
We don't take credit for ourselves. And one thing I told myself years ago that as the path unfolds, I would never stand to say I planned it all or I knew how it would map out. I never did.
yeah,
And I think that story that helps to connect with people because
yeah.
like Gideon was just there threshing uh, in wine press and he was hiding. So
Mm,
this great person with God saw
yeah.
was not the person who was in the immediate. So I see a mighty man of valor as someone who, despite his weaknesses, is
Mm,
recognized by heaven as a
mm,
potential and is
mm,
supported by heaven to fulfill that potential. Because we don't just stop at potential, we also seek
mm.
to realize that potential with heaven's help.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Like, and even one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, okay, then the Bible tells us this, but then what word do you have for people that don't necessarily see themselves that way, but you've pretty much answered it, right? And I think sometimes even the act of being valiant, right?
Mm,
It's requires a form of dying to self where we put our own kind of ideas of what how we see ourselves and
mm,
actually accept that this is how God sees us, right? And sometimes
mm,
it's gonna be difficult because we think we're wise. We think, but I they make accurate descriptions, but it's like we actually don't know, until we really take the word of God as this is the standard, this is the truth. Then
mm,
every other thing, it's like either God is the truth and every other thing is not. So
mm,
therefore, we
mm,
base the truth on this, or we're picking and choosing
mm,
what we think is right, right? When it
mm,
suits us, when
mm.
it's more
True.
conducive for us, it's like this. So
Mm,
I'm at that. The reason I'm saying is because I'm kind of in that similar realm where it's like, okay, I
mm,
know this is what the word of God says, but then I'm like,
mm,
what I'm seeing, this is what it's telling me. So therefore,
mm,
which one do I believe, right?
mm,
Um,
mm.
but God is helping us.
And I would say that at this point you are a very big motivation for me. Your consistency, your doggedness, I'll put it that way, because like this I've known you with the brand for years now, and you are consistent. And if it's anything, it's the encouragement that I know you just apologize to our viewers for not being consistent, but consistent even in the inconsistent, let me put it that way, in not giving up. Because I remember when I started blogging, I was like, I'll go online and see so many blogs that are like 5 years, just
Mm-hmm.
up. And then I'm like, and interestingly, my blog is like a year now, not touched. But it's often that mind, and then you are consistent in also new variations. Now the podcast, you have the recording on Spotify. It's not giving up, and so that's who I believe a mighty man of valor is. Somebody who is after God's heart. Somebody is who is not relenting. Because even Gideon, he was, oh, what does this work? If it's you, let me know this one. If it's you, let me know this one. So it's not like
Yeah.
Gideon is all figured out, but I'm sure you'll come back to this video in a few months' time and then you'll smile.
Yeah, thank you. So even now, I'm just like, wow, like
Mhm.
that's a word. Thank you so much. You have no idea. God
Thank you.
bless you. And likewise, you motivate me to like.
Mm,
I'm not gonna lie. Seeing some of
mm,
your posts and even your blog, like as I said,
mm.
like the time I'd emailed you first, I was like, oh wow, like Rivida has done a lot. So like I knew, but sometimes where you just I knew, but then I just be like, I guess maybe it has skipped my mind because there was so many other things. I was
Mm,
like, oh my goodness, yo, this house has a ton of experience. Like, and you've written books, you've actually published books. So, and we'll get to talk about that later on. But thank you so
okay.
much for your kind words. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So Men's Health Awareness Month was in November, and we one of the things we wanted to do with this Valiant series is just kind of speaking to various aspects of men's health, so including the spiritual aspect,
Mm,
emotional, physical, relational, and I wanted to ask you, what tips would you say might have helped you to embody being a man of valor, or even just taking care of yourself? We've spoken before we started recording just about the fact that you're able
mm,
to have some break from work, right? But I think a lot of the times, it can feel like in a society with women, we can talk with our friends, right? Even some of us that are still a bit closed off, we still have places where we can go and get that kind of relief, right? Where we
mm,
can get a kind
mm,
of camaraderie, community. And
mhm,
I've noticed historically with this, some of the guys I've been privy to know, not everybody's like
mm.
that, but some
Yeah.
of them, I just wonder, how are you taking care of yourself in terms of just, mental health wise, emotionally, in terms of your actual physical health and all those different things. Maybe
Mm.
any tips that you'd have to share.
One, I would say be vulnerable to God and to your very close friends and family members.
Yeah.
There is a song that comes to mind. It's by Dr. Paul Eneche. With you, Lord, I can be naked and not ashamed.
Hmm.
I'd like you to check it out. With you, Lord, I can be open and have no fear. For I found in you a friend that I can trust. And it goes like that. Um, and when we read the Psalms, we see David as a person, and even the psalmist as people who were vulnerable. And I've always been that way, going to God and saying, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm tired. I'm worn out. Um, I'm worried. Um, and for me, that has always been a very good way to express my emotions because, it's not good to bottle things up, whether a man or a woman. It's not good to keep things to yourself. Speak
Yeah.
out to the right people, but firstly to God, because you would see the psalmist, you say, why, my soul, why are you so downcast? And you see Habakkuk, you say, God, you've done this before, but like, what are you now doing now? And that's
Yeah.
airing it out. God would rather you question him than walk away. God does not,
Mm.
He's not afraid of being questioned. He's not afraid of you sharing and saying, Lord, why did this person die? I lost
Mm.
one of my big sister's cousins a few weeks ago.
Mm.
And
So,
in, thank you. Not
mm.
cousins now. I mean, she's the big sister. We grew up in their hands. I was the one that had that was someone warning. And I basically know now.
Mhm.
And I still can't make sense of the loss. In
Yeah.
fact, when I see a picture or remember her, I'm
Mm.
triggered and I cry. I'm not talking pretty cries. I'm talking, and if not I was on this podcast, I'll probably be doing a very ugly cry. So, but I'm like, God, what exactly is this? Like, why did she
Mm.
have to go? And so many
Yeah.
questions still in my head that cannot be, have not been resolved. So, found
Mm.
vulnerability very helpful. I found that
Yeah.
it helps to just open the mind and then just be honest and say, God, help me. And then talk to
Mm.
friends. Say, well, my friend or my brother, my sister, my partner,
Yes.
I, I'm worried.
Mm.
Like you said, you
Mm.
need to speak to your friends. I don't know what's going on. Reading
Mm.
on people who have gone through the same thing you've gone through.
Mm.
How did this person go through this season of their lives without being overwhelmed? So for me,
Mm.
vulnerability is very key for a
Mm.
man and for everybody generally.
Mm. Yeah. That's right. That's
Mm.
very right. God help us. God
Amen.
help us be more open and vulnerable, with the right
Amen.
people for sure. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about your publishing history. So you wrote
Okay.
a book a while back called Men of Like Passions. So can
Mhm.
you talk us through this? So you said that, you looked at one of the things you mentioned last was that looking at people that have gone through situations, how did they go through, how did they handle that, right? So when you decided to write this book, can you talk us through what motivated you and what the book is about as well?
Yeah, thank you. It was a desire to share lessons which God had been teaching me personally
Mm-hmm.
with God's people. That it was inspired by the verse where the Bible says Elijah was a man of like passion, and
Mm,
it
okay.
really helps because a lot of times we see people that are doing big things as extraordinary,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they not always are. Um, from the
Mm,
outside looking in, I've been privileged to see the people and like read people's stories. People who would consider geniuses in different fields, and then they will tell you that it's just like I'm not special. And you're like,
mm.
guy, you're special. You're an
You're
editor of
special.
this, you're like a CEO of this, these tech people, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, you're special, you have movies, you have this kind of things. And like, but tell you they're not special. They have fears. Um, you
Mm,
know, it looks almost like impossible that people will do great things that have fears, but they
yeah.
do. And
Yeah.
why I believe that lesson is important is that it helps us to know that we can do them too. I think that's
Mm,
the biggest takeaway. That it's not a special breed of people that do those things. It's people that connect with God that do those things.
yeah.
It's not as
Mm,
though we read Esther's story and Esther was, you know, cautious. Then Esther chapter 4, verse I think 14. Mordecai was
mm.
like, guy, if you don't speak up, people, God will raise up help. But
Yeah.
you're not here for a time like this. And so but we just sometimes gloss over and then we jump to that part where she brought people together to fast and pray. But that was the
Mm,
fear element, that was the concern. Elijah was
yeah.
saying, God, kill me, like, just kill
Mm,
me. So it was the same Elijah that said fire should come down from heaven. But in
mm,
almost the next points of things, it was suicidal.
yeah.
That's what we call suicidal now.
Yeah.
And it just shows you also, for example, the very, very thin line between the highs and lows of life. This
Mm,
person experienced what is in Bible history one of the greatest highs ever, Mount Carmel. And in a few
mm,
days time, this person is like suicidal, God kill me. And
mm,
so sometimes even when we have big victories, we need to be careful because the way emotions can be very varied, something big happens and then in the moment you are weighed down by something very little.
yeah.
People can be very you do a very good, great concert in your church, and somebody comes and
Mm,
says, this part didn't work out, or if you're a perfectionist, you see one thing that didn't work out in the concert, and then you
oh
beat
my
yourself up the next 3 days,
Yep.
because of one thing that didn't work out, and then you
Yeah.
move from high to low. And it's just
Mm,
Mind of Life Passions. For anyone who has not read, it's available on the website,
yeah.
iremediakinsola.com for free download. And it's just God saying that um, you
Mm,
you are a normal person with a great God. All your
mm,
fears, all of those things are factored into the equation.
yeah.
Uh, they are factored into the equation. So it's an
Mm,
encouragement for people like me, people who are not
yeah.
special, but who have a special God to say, well, you can do something amazing, no matter how
Come
ordinary you are.
on. Wow. Come for people like me too.
No, yeah, our Ghana, so how do we match this?
I need to. Don't worry. I'll be your avid customer because no,
It's the
it's
humility
it's
for me. It's the humility.
it's I beg. No, but honestly, it's
Mm-hmm.
so, and you know what you said is so pivotal. Like sometimes it can
Mm-hmm.
literally be that thin line between highs and lows, you know.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, we're all in a rush to adults. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want to adults, but being
Mm-hmm.
able to tell the difference, like being able to manage successfully as an adult is also realizing
Mm-hmm.
that there are those seasons, right? We see people that have gone and you're like, how did they handle it? Like,
True.
first of all, we're
True.
different. That's number
Mm-hmm.
one. Our struggles are different. But at the same time, knowing that, because maybe they handled it well, they didn't necessarily show it, doesn't mean that they didn't have those struggles as well,
Very
right?
true.
That's why we
Very
have stories like this to remind us of things, So thank you so much for that.
true.
And then, kind of to round us off today, what suggestions would you give the audience, both for men and women, and how we can end the year valiantly? So, 2025, it's been a lot. So much has occurred and happened in this year
True.
from the very
True.
beginning, but we thank God by His grace, we've made it through and we're looking forward to
Mm-hmm.
a wonderful year 2026. But also,
Mm-hmm.
it's halfway through the 2020s.
Mm-hmm.
It's now we're crossing into like the second half of the year 2020s, and just seeing that, wow, time is
True.
going by so
True.
quickly.
That's true.
Yeah, like
Oh
2020
wow.
was just 5 years
That's
ago. You
true.
know what I mean?
That's true. That's true. That's true.
It's really big when we
Mm,
think about it, right? But we have to make sure that we don't get so caught up with all of that. So, kind of,
mm,
from your perspective, what would be your suggestion for people out there? How can we end the year valiantly? Say, for example, maybe the year hasn't been going so great
mm,
as one would have anticipated. How do they make sure that they end well? Or if the year has been going fantastically well for other people and they just worry that, that case of that everything has been going well now, I don't want to
mm,
jinx it. So for
mm,
those two
mm.
different groups of people, perhaps, what suggestions or tips would you have?
I would say first of all, retreat. Something that I find helpful. I've not been able to do as much as I can, but I try to do.
Yeah.
Step back from the whole thing.
Mm,
Second Corinthians, I think 13 verse 5, 6. Examine yourself. Saying to know whether you're still in the faith. But I pick the examination of self. Yes, to know
yeah.
whether you're still in the faith. To know what exactly you're doing. Luke
Yeah.
chapter 14 talks about counting the cost, and it's just important that we are able to step back and say, well, what were my plans for the year? What happened during the year? You don't want to live the same year five times, six times. You want to do
Yeah.
something different. What could I do
Yeah.
different with my so first of all,
Mm,
examine. How was my spiritual? How was my work with God? Did I
yeah.
prioritize Him? Did I give Him the best or the rest? How was my
Mm,
finances? Did I put God first? So they would say if you want to know, if I check your bank statements from January
mm,
to date, would I
mm,
say your passion lies with God? Does your spending reflect your passion? So
yeah.
stepping back to examine those things and then looking ahead would always be one of my key suggestions, and it's one of the things that I'm suggesting. Step back,
Yeah.
examine what has gone on, then you plan for what is ahead prayerfully, committing the year ahead into God's hands because He knows the future He has gone ahead of us and is always
Yeah.
willing to help.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate you that we're able to make this work.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciate your patience with us. So guys, please do connect with Iremide. I'm gonna put his contact, so his website where you can get the book Men of Like Passions, as well as the contact information that he's gonna share with us. So feel free to connect with him. And once again, thank you so much, Iremide, for joining us
Thank you.
today.
Thank
I
you
hope you
very
guys
much.
have enjoyed this episode. Yay!
Like
And
subscribe button, click the like and turn on notification.
come on! We need to make you a regular because
Yeah,
nobody else has. Thank you, thank you. See, you're
thank
doing
you.
my work
Yes,
for me. Maybe make a co-host of the podcast.
no problems,
But
no
yeah,
worries.
everything that he said, and yes,
Hmm.
please feel free to connect with him. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the year, and who
Thank you.
knows, we might see you guys, or you might see Rumide at another
Mhm.
episode.
Thank you. Thank you very
All
much.
right,
I'm
take
really
care.
grateful.
Thank
Thank you.
you.